Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 5. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about silent languages. First of all, let me introduce our member. The first speaker is Nur Sakina Nasir, and the second speaker is Rizky Amelia Anggreni. The third speaker is Shahronik binti Edi. Fourth speaker is Jihan Maharani. And the fifth speaker is me, Surami Ningsi. And last is Aisyah Aulia Tahir. Without any further ado, let's get started. For the first speaker, time is yours.
I'm Nur Sakina Nasir. I will explain about sign language. Sign language is a way of communicating by using the hand and other parts of the body. It should not be confused with body language. Sign language are important way for deaf people to communicate. Deaf people often use them instead of spoken language. Spoken language use sounds from the mouth and are understood with the ears. Sign language use hand and understood with the eyes. Deaf people can use sign language more easily than spoken language. The next is type of sign language. There are 6 types of sign language. The first, important for deaf people. Sign language are extremely important communication tool for many deaf and hard of hearing people. Sign language are the native language of the deaf, communicate and provide full access to communication. The second, more expressive. Sign language are not just about hands. They are also about the movement of a person, arm, body, and facial expression. Facial expression in sign language can express both emotion and grammatical information. The third is listening with your eyes. When using a sign language, a person must engage in a constant eye contact with the person who is speaking. Fourth, helpful for people with autism spectrum disorder. Some children with autism spectrum disorder or ASD struggle developing verbal communication. Learning a sign language can be helpful communication tool for some children with ASD. 5. Having a private conversation in a public place. Sign language can be a great way to gossip without anyone else knowing and passing on confidential information. And the last, advantage over spoken language. Sign language can be used when the spoken word is physically impossible, such as talking underwater, talking through glass from a distance at a loud music concert, and talking with your mouth full. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
In this section, I'm Rizky Amelia Anggreni. As the second speaker, will be present to you the second material talking about American Sign Language. So, what is American Sign Language? American Sign Language was originally developed from French Sign Language that brought to the United States in 18 and 16 by Thomas Gallaudet and Laurent Clerc. At the first, American Sign Language called Old Sign Language. In addition, American Sign Language abbreviated as ASL. American Sign Language is completely different from British Sign Language. The signs are different, the grammatical bases are different too, and the two languages are mutually unintelligible. Okay, the second one is American Sign Language structure. ASL is structured differently from spoken American English. As with many languages, different concepts may be expressed differently too. For example, in English, the word right has 2 meanings. There are correct and the opposite of left. But in ASL, the word of right separate to 2 signs. There are correct and one for and one for the opposite of left. As ASL grammar is not the same as spoken English grammar either. A major difference is the way words are sequenced in sentence. Questions are organized differently too. ASL tends to put the question word at the end of a sentence rather than at the beginning. For the example, in English, as what did he buy? But in ASL, tends to prefer he buy what. Okay. The second is manually code sign language. Manually code sign language, in contrast to natural sign language, are artificial language invented by hearing individuals in an attempt to teach spoken language to deaf individuals. So I think enough from me.
Okay, in this section I will explain about change and variation in sign languages. As with spoken languages, sign languages change over time. New sign can develop, the placement of sign can shift, and different varieties of signing can emerge. The important thing to remember is that sign languages are languages, just like spoken languages, and that sign languages serve all of the same function for their signer as spoken languages do for their speakers. Then, ideologies of signing. Fluent signers in the deaf community find themselves code switching on occasion when faced with non-fluent hearing individuals. Often the language that is used with hearing individuals is some variety of sign English or manual coded English. In some cases, the code switching is not just for improved communication, but rather for marking the boundary between deaf and hearing communities. Then, does modality matter? When speak of modality with reference to language, we mean the physical channel through which a language is expressed. Spoken languages use an oral channel or modality. Sign languages use a visual or gestural modality. One of the more interesting questions in contemporary linguistic research has to do with whether languages that use different modalities are structurally or even mentally different from one another. Thank you.
Okay, Nijian Maharani will explain the next material about nonverbal communication. So, nonverbal communication is the process of transmitting message without spoken or sign words, sometimes called body language. It usually includes facial expression, gesture, gaze, and posture, but it can also include the way we use the space around us to communicate. Next slide. Just as verbal language is broken up into various categories, there are also different types of nonverbal communication. So the first one is prosemic. Prosemic is the study of space and how we use it, how it makes us feel more and less comfortable, and how arrange object and ourselves in relation to space. This term is developed by anthropologist Edward T. Hall in the 1950s and 60s. He described the relative space between people in 4 distinct zones. Please look at the picture on this slide. The first one is intimate space. So, intimate space usually for people who you are very close to. In this space, you are probably less than a foot away and you might even be touching to other person. This is the space you are in with romantic partner, for example. The next is personal space. In this space is usually for family member or close friends. Personal space range from 1 until 4 feet. The next is social space. Social space range from 4 to 12 feet. This is often used for acquaintances and college. The next is public space. Public space was anything over 12 feet, often used in public speaking situation and with stranger you want to maintain your distance from. Next slide. If previously in the prosemic we learned about the space that is usually used in communicating, here in kinesic we learn about the way in which certain body movement and gesture serve as a form of nonverbal communication. So specifically in kinesic we learn about the use of gesture, head movements and posture, eye contact and facial expression as nonverbal communication. Next slide. Gesture. Gesture allow individuals to communicate a variety of feelings and thoughts, from contempt and hostility to approval and affection, often together with body language in addition to words when they speak. For example, clapping hands as a form of appreciation for someone, or it can also describe feelings of happy. Next slide. Facial expression and eye contact. Facial expression and eye contact is also included in kinesic study. True facial expression may reveal our true feelings about a particular situation. While you say that you are feeling fine, the look on your face may tell people otherwise. Likewise with eye contact, the eyes are frequently referred to as the windows of the soul, since they are capable of revealing a great deal about what a person is feeling or thinking. I think that's all for me. Let's move to the next speaker.
The next material is about observing and using kinesics and proxemics. The word kinesics comes from the root word kinesis, which means movement and refers to the study of hand, arm, body, and face movements. Specifically, I will say that the use of gesture, head movements, and posture, eye contact, facial expression as nonverbal communication. For example, facial expression of happiness, surprise, anger, disgust, and other basic emotions are understood by people in all cultures. And next is proxemics, refers to the study of how space and distance influence communication. We only need to look at the ways in which space shows up in common metaphors to see that space, communication, and relationship closely related. For example, when we are content with and attracted to someone, we say we are close to him or her. When we lose connection with someone, we may say he or she is distant. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
I'm Aisha. For the last speaker, we're going to present about a complex gesture system. So complex gesture system are general systems that can be used almost as effectively as spoken languages, but they are far limited than the sign languages like American Sign Languages, French Sign Languages, or German Sign Languages, and many more. So it doesn't really make sense to refer them as a languages. Complex gesture systems are limited to the context in which they are used, and they are usually limited in what can be communicated depending to the context. I think that's all for our material. Thank you.
That's all for our presentation today. Thank you so much for all the speakers and thank you for your kind attention. See you in another project and have a nice day.